Welcome to Whispers of Oxenfurt, a podcast based on the Witcher universe by Polish author Andrzej Sapkowski. I've received some good emails of suggestions and what to perhaps discuss, including several about the upcoming TV show. So I'll just kind of say right here about why I don't plan on discussing anything about the TV show. The main reason is because I want to keep this about the books. I started this to talk about the books. There's no other podcast about the books. And I think it's something that really people could get into before the show comes out in whoever knows how long. Another thing is, we only really have rumors to go on at this point. And I think discussing a lot of these rumors could be very unhealthy, as people tend to have a lot of overreaction to what they're hearing now when that couldn't even be what it is. I'm sure when Charles Dance first came on screen as Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones, there were people out there that had a heart attack because he wasn't bald and he didn't have the large sideburns that he has in the books. But would anybody really look at him or how he portrayed that character and say, oh, he was terrible? No, I mean, he was so beloved by the writers and creators that expanded his storyline. So what matters the most, especially when you're going from books to a screen adaptation, is character. Character matters most. So let them do what they do. Judge the show based on how they do the characterization. How they look, it doesn't matter. If Geralt has a full beard, if Geralt doesn't have a beard, I mean, yeah, the white hair could be different, but even so, what if he had pink hair? Like, would it really be that much worse? So let the characters come out. Let them do their thing. And for the most part, I will be sticking to the books. Any comments about that? Please let me know. I'll discuss it, email anything else for sure. Today we will discuss the narrative that connects all the short stories throughout The Last Wish. It'll be a pretty quick episode, I think, and no major discussions at the end. I will interject with thoughts and background on one character for sure. So with that in order, let's head to the land of Alenda in The Voice of Reason.
Thank not me, thank Melitele.
Part 1. An unnamed woman with hair that smells of chamomile enters a room and begins having sex with an unnamed man. I'll spare you any audio clips, but that's basically it. The short story The Witcher follows.
Are you wounded? Again?
Geralt awakens, recovering from his wounds in Vizima. Nenneke, the head of the Temple of Melitele, runs off the woman Geralt has slept with, Yola. She informs Geralt that Yola has taken a vow of silence. More on Nenneke later, and I'll probably say her name several different ways. But the two go way back, and Geralt trusts in her knowledge. She chastises him for being hurt by an ordinary Striga and says that he is losing his reflexes. Later, the Witcher is strolling through the grounds and has a theological discussion with Nenneke, and we learn that without question, Geralt is an atheist, non-believer, or non-theist. I brought this up in the Edge of the World episode, when the Queen of the Fields saves him and Dandelion, that even though he witnessed a literal living deity, he maintains his non-belief. But will that change? He refuses to be put in a trance and says he has no desire as there is nothing surrounding him, no vortex or fate. Nenneke insists that Yola can help, but Geralt re-insists that his lack of faith would make it pointless. She says that is fine, as it would be the first proof a lack of faith has any kind of power at all. This then leads into the story A Grain of Truth. Part 3. Falwick, Count of Moen, and Tyus, a knight from Dorndal, both adorned with armor representing the Order of the White Rose, arrive at the temple. They are in service of Prince Hereward, and they insist Geralt leave as soon as possible. Geralt says he has no intentions of staying, but Tyus interrupts, saying the prince orders it. The priestess jumps in with, "In this temple I give the orders," interrupted Nenneke in a cold, authoritative voice. "I usually try to ensure my orders don't conflict too much with Hereward's politics, as far as those politics are logical and understandable. In this case, they are irrational, so I won't treat them any more seriously than they deserve. Geralt, Witcher of Rivia, is my guest. His stay is a pleasure to me, so he will stay in my temple for as long as he wishes. So a little bit about Nenneke without spoiling. Geralt and her clearly have a mother-son type relationship. He seems almost contrite around her, lets his guard down, and spills his emotions out. As we saw here, she suffers no fools, and is brutally honest with Geralt as well. As pointed out by an emailer to me, Nenneke plays an important female, non-sexualized role to Geralt, and her introduction is as important to his character as anyone so far. And again, in the future, there will be much to discuss about her. After Nenneke finishes verbally ethering the two, Geralt tries to reason with Falwick, which is a mistake. He calls him the Butcher of Blaviken. They bitch and moan some more before the duo sink away, vowing to return. This leads into The Lesser Evil. Part 4. Geralt sits in a garden with Yola. He monologues to her about his swords, that he carries two, and silver is not always for monsters, and that iron must come from a meteorite. We also get a verbal introduction to Kaer Morhen, a rundown Witcher settlement in which Vesemir,
tomfoolery, enough!
His father but not real father, is the only resident. Geralt mentions the trial of the grasses, the mutations, and how his hair has been white ever since. He speaks of killing his first monster, bald with rotted teeth, who is a man. It's a good look into Geralt, and you could even say Sapkowski's views, that oftentimes the worst monsters are usually human. The Witcher Code, or lack thereof, is brought up as Geralt follows one he invented, the lesser evil and voice of reason that he sometimes doesn't stick to. He says he's never going back to Sintra. The child should have been born in May, around the feast of Belatin, the same as Yennefer. Which leads us into a question of price. Part 5. That idler, parasite, good for nothing, that priest of art, the bright shining star of the ballad and love poem. As usual, he's radiant with fame, puffed up like a pig's bladder and stinking of beer. Do you want to see him? Now, who could Nenneke be describing?
The quill is mightier than the sword.
That would, of course, be Dandelion, whom Nenneke is clearly not a big fan of. As he arrives, and the Witcher and the Bard relax. Dandelion informs us that he studied history and geography at Academy in Oxenfurt. Hey, so that's a man after my own heart right there. Geralt waxes on about how hard it is to be a Witcher. Times are changing. People want him to kill harmless creatures, and he won't do it. Dandelion astutely tells Geralt that he is in service of a paradox. He works to get rid of monsters, which would then end the need for Witchers. He says Geralt just needs to kill a few monsters and creatures, and his blues will go away. They then reminisce about the edge of the world. Part 6. Geralt and Nenneke, I think I said Nenneke, not Nenneke, discuss Yennefer, and the Witcher wishes to donate his earnings from the Striga to the temple and give the remainder to Yen. It is revealed that they have since gone their separate ways, and Nenneke has no interest in being an intermediary between them, nor any seeming interest in how each of them feel. We learn sorceresses are barren, but not always, as Geralt should know. Nenneke hounds him again that he is sick and needs to stay. He deflects the comments like an easy riposte and goes into the story of how him and Yen met in The Last Wish. Part 7. Geralt and Dandelion ride down the road, but are stopped by Thais, Falwick, and a dwarf named Dennis Cranmer, captain of Prince Harewood's guards.
I've never run from no one, and I'm no about to start.
Unfortunately for Geralt, he must fight a duel with Thais, and if he injures him, he'll be taken back to the prince to be punished. He can let Thais just injure him, but Yeah, that might not be a good idea. Cranmer appeals to the Witcher's past and says an alternative could be bloodshed like in Blaviken. Dandelion defends his friend, but Geralt accepts the duel upon hearing Cranmer say that he executes orders to the letter. The Witcher easily avoids the messy attacks from Tyas, and when the knight is off balance, Geralt hits his sword so hard it bangs against Tyas' own face, sending him to the ground. Falwick demands he be arrested, but the dwarf executes his orders to the letter. Tyas hit himself with his own blade, so Geralt never touched him. Geralt saddles up to leave and gives the bully Falwick a dressing down that Nenneke would be proud of. He tells him that if he ever bothers her, or even Cranmer, he will bleed him like a stuck pig. Geralt and Dandelion return to Nenneke and prepare to leave. Geralt says goodbye to Yola, and as they touch hands, the woman is sent to the ground, appearing to have a seizure. Blood, blood, blood. Bones like broken white sticks. Tendons like whitish cords exploding from beneath cracking skin, cut by enormous paws bristling with thorns and sharp teeth. The hideous sound of torn flesh and shouting, shameless and horrifying in its shamelessness. The shamelessness of the end, of death, blood and shouting, shouting, blood, shouting. Nenneke orders her to be taken away, and again begs Geralt to stay. He refuses one final time and departs. "Farewell," she whispered, not looking him in the eye. Please send all emails, comments, and suggestions to witcherpodcast@gmail.com. I'm on Twitter @witcherpodcast, and my personal one @BrettServe. That's BRETTCERV. So please send any comments there as well, including if you want to talk about the TV show there, will be fine. I also stream Gwent the Witcher card game on Twitch @CoachBrett. That's Coach and then BRETT. Usually late night Central American, well, not going to be Central American Standard Time, it's just Central Standard Time, right? Because it's Central European Standard, there I go again. Central Standard Time. I should get a more clear-cut schedule of that, but if you're ever on Twitch, go ahead, check it out, and we can discuss anything there. So that'll do it for The Last Wish. We begin next week with the S word of destiny. That's the sword of destiny. Of course.